Hey Rose, it's Wednesday, June 11th. If there's one thing we can all agree on, it's probably that
Humans are violent.
But you could argue that we used to be much more violent. But Nathan, how could this be? Every passing year brings us new military and weapon technology. We can kill more people faster than ever. Also, it seems like shootings and suicide bombings happen about as often as you take your pants off. Which is pretty often. That's a very good point, extremely attractive stranger in my house, but bear with me here. There was a time in our history where kind of everyone was a murderer. Death was a very common part of life that most people witnessed on a daily basis. I mean, have you seen Game of Thrones? Think about things like gladiator fights or public executions. These are just a couple of the ways that murder was freaking entertainment. Go back further and it only gets worse. Our early ancestors used murder as a social tool. Males would kill other competitor males in order to maintain power in a group or even to attract a mate. Compared to where we are now, you can see why I might say we are nowhere near as violent as we used to be. A vast majority of humans will go their entire lives without killing anybody. This might seem like an obvious observation, but it's actually kind of groundbreaking for our species. Violence is an aspect of humanity that most of us are not proud of. Killing is a common trait among animals, but we like to think that we're better than animals, so we don't like to think about all the pain and suffering that we're actually capable of causing. With all this being said, however, I find it fascinating how big of a role violence has actually played in who we are. Let's go back, about 4 million years to our early ancestor, Australopithecus. Australopithecus was our first fully bipedal ancestor, meaning they were a very important step to where we are today. Walking upright allowed for the species to begin to use their hands as tools instead of just something else to walk on. It also caused our spine to become aligned out of the bottom of our skull instead of out the back, like most four-legged animals. This gave our brains much more room to grow over time. By studying the skeletons of our ancestors, we can actually notice really interesting changes over time. Most animals use their mouths to inflict damage by biting and causing death by puncture wounds and infection. Well, once we could walk upright, we began using our hands basically as clubs to hit and smash things. We can see from the fossil record that our early ancestors developed larger, more dense, bony hands in order to punch the crap out of people. This meant that other humans, especially males of the species, when in combat were likely to get punched in the face and die from skull fractures. Ow. Therefore, men with stronger face and skull bones were likely to survive longer and have kids of their own, passing on their strong head genes to their children. Also, men with stronger fists were likely to defeat their opponents more often and have more opportunities to mate. Basically, if you're alive today, it's because your ancestors were really good at killing and really bad at dying. Fast forward a few million years and you can see what effect this actually had. Sexual dimorphism is the term that describes physical differences between the males and females of a species. While we don't have as many physical differences as some animals, we still have some. Look at our hands, for instance. Men tend to have thicker, larger hands than women, essentially from millions of years of beating up dudes and taking their girlfriends. Now look at our faces. Men tend to have bigger noses, thicker bones around our eyes, and thicker, stronger jaws. From millions of years of getting punched in the face and not dying. As our species grows into something that I hope doesn't have to use violence and death as a tool like our ancestors had to, we should still remember where we came from and how much our violent past actually made us who we are today, both culturally and physically. Rose, if anyone ever tries to take you away, I promise to use my strong manly face bones to deflect any punches that might come my way. Which I hope are not many. Or any. Okay, we'll see you on Friday.